After I recollected my equipment, I went to bed. I was staring at the ceiling, meditating on what I would be doing tomorrow. I know that in order for me to even begin investigating, I need to look at other cases so I could possibly link them and find a connection. Obviously, the only place I am going to find this is at the police department. I sighed and sarcastically whispered, "Great." It was about 7 a.m. when I woke up. When I put my feet on the wooden floor, I jumped. I forgot the weather in Devil's Hill, colder than Alaska in winter. I got my clothes on and went to the attic to get my DHPD badge and the rest of my equipment. While I was gearing up, I heard Alicia's voice on the walkie-talkie. I grabbed the walkie and said, "Alicia?" "Yeah, it's me. I just wanted to check on you to see if you got everything you needed." Yeah, I got everything. Thank you for storing all this." "Of course, Brandon." "So what's the plan?" "Well, first, I'm going to the DHPD to try to find connections from past cases," she assumed. Yeah. Hopefully I can find a lead." "Okay. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me," Alicia said. "I will. Thank you." "Also, Brendan?" "Yeah." "Be careful." "I will," I assured her. Walking through the front door, I grabbed my heavy flannel jacket. When I got to my car, I grabbed my PC from under the seat. Alicia emailed me a map of Devil's Hill and gave me access to the district's surveillance system. I saw this and I thought, she's good. I skimmed through the district cameras and found one at the entrance of the police department. Examining the entrance, I recognized the lack of law enforcement. There was no metal detector or anything that needed clearance. I changed cameras to evidence lockup, where they keep all types of evidence found at crime scenes. I took a screenshot of the room and sent it to Alicia with a caption, "Going to evidence lockup." When I got out of the car, I put my hands into my armpits and pulled my hoodie over my head. Before going in, I pulled my DHPD badge from under my shirt. Walking in, I smelled tobacco and alcohol. I thought to myself sarcastically, so original. Most of the precinct's eyeballs were fixed on me. I couldn't help but be hypervigilant. I walked up to the door that had the files and tried opening it. It was locked. Looking to the right, I realized there was an identification card system. So instead of pickpocketing a police officer, I grabbed the handle and pulled it down until it detached. As I walked in, I saw an entire inventory of all things crime, like knives, machetes, pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, and even a rocket launcher. My eyes then locked. I saw the file cabinet where they keep all of the information on crime scenes. The cabinet had cobwebs all around it, and its handles were rusted. When I opened the cabinet, I jerked back, covering my nostrils. While having my right hand on my nose, I opened the top file cabinet. There was a lot of files, especially around the early 1900s. While looking through a bunch of cold cases, I stumbled upon a case that was familiar. Brutal animal attacks surrounding the woods up northeast of Devil's Hill. It was January 1st, 1900. It was right after New Year's, along with the mayoral election. The mayor, James Roberts, had just won the election against his own brother, Andrew Roberts. Mayor James was a monarch. He ruled Devil's Hill with honor and integrity, but also with sheer brutality, having no tolerance for lawbreakers or anyone who threatened his mayoral campaign. As a celebration of his victory, he threw a party at Hell's Tavern, which was the original name of the Hellfire Bar. I was at the tavern, just having a break from all of life's common troubles. I was drinking the refreshing taste of cold water. Immediately, the silence was interrupted by a bunch of hillbilly hunters dressed in animal pelt. Along with them was Mayor James. I scratched my head, wondering why a man of such stature and respect would be hanging around a bunch of cavemen. I obviously didn't tell them that, so I just looked at my glass of water and minded my own business. Shockingly, Mayor James sat down across from me and said, "You must be Brandon Albin." "How did you postulate that, sir?" "Well, you are in a tavern, drinking water," he said humorously. "You got me, sir," I said, smiling. Looking at the hunters, I asked him, "Who are your friends over there?" He turned around and looked back at them and said, "Oh, they're not my friends. They're hired help." "Hired help?" I asked curiously. "Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with problems already. Some of our citizens have reported strange noises in Witch's Forest. Witch's Forest? It's a lot of ground to cover, sir. Yeah, whispered Mayor James. Sir, may I ask, why hire hunters to hunt this animal when you have an entire police force? I have. My eyebrows elevated. I've sent the most trained police officers to deal with this beast and they haven't reported back. I'm really sorry, sir. Is there anything I can do? Mayor James looked riddled when I offered to help, but then he remembered. That's right. You served in the war bound. Indeed, sir. Suddenly, a police officer barged in the tavern and interrupted our conversation. He was out of breath, like he just ran a marathon. Breathlessly, he said, Mr. Mayor, the beast has attacked a small village. There are casualties. Mayor James looked grieved, but his anger outweighed his despair. He lifted his head up and looked at me, nodded his head. He practically asked for my help. Me and Mayor James followed the officer to the crime scene. As we were going there, we saw people comforting and nurturing the victims that were attacked. Along them were families who had tremors from head to toe and had rivers of water flowing from their eyes. We were approaching the crime site. Since it is located near the woods, we were walking on this narrow road. The closer we got to the crime site, the more destruction and carnage we saw. Black smoke hovered over us like a huge dark cloud. Only death was filling the atmosphere. Grabbing the police tape, I saw innocent people with long, deep gashes, bullet casings on the ground with no gunpowder in them, mothers mourning over their children's dead bodies. I wanted to join them, but I need to find the monster that did this. I sniffled my tears. I tried to stay strong, but I couldn't help it. A stream of water came from my eyes. I wiped the tears from my face and clenched my fists. I clenched so tight that I felt my fingers piercing the middle of my hands. I then walked in the middle of the survivors and asked, what did this? They saw I was holding back my tears and emotions. Thus one of them stood up and said, we don't know. It was unbelievably fast. The only thing we heard was screaming and gunshots, but it didn't last that long. I'm really sorry. I don't know anything. He said, self-pitying himself. It was okay. That actually helps Bud. Is there anything else? One of the mothers walked up to me, with her eyes bloodshot, said despairingly, please end this nightmare. I will, ma'am. Okay, guys, go to the GHPD. If you come across any wounded, take them to the police station. You'll be safe there. When the survivors got up, Mayor James walked up to me and asked, what are you going to do? I'm going to track whatever this thing is. Tracking this animal was no easy task. The night was so black, I practically lost my sight. I was constantly looking over my shoulder. I didn't hear anything but only the dead silence of night. The only thing I did hear was my own 12-inch boots crushing twigs and leaves. I stopped and thought to myself, it is way too quiet. I know this will sound odd, but the silence creeps me out more than the thought of this unknown beast that has killed many. There wasn't even crickets. I then crouched near a tree and started contemplating. There is no way this thing is an ordinary animal. It has to be supernatural. It can't be a vampire. No vampire is capable of this type of animalistic brutality. I then looked up and my heart dropped. While looking at the moon, I whispered, werewolf. While I was shaking in my shoes, I heard a certain noise about 2 miles away. High-pitched voices and infantile laughter. I then sprinted toward them. When I got there, I didn't see them, but I could sense the children's chemo signals. They were terrified. They must have just hid. Tiny footprints were engraved on the mud, leading to a stump. I slowly grabbed the root from the stump and lifted it. I saw 2 little kids, shuddering, trembling, while staring at the ground. I knelt down and said babyishly, "Hi, are you guys okay?" They didn't say anything, as if I wasn't even standing there. I had an idea to bring them out. "Do you want me to take you back to your mother?" The little girl who was in front of the other looked at me and nodded her head. She then grabbed her sister's hand and whispered to her, "He would take us back to Mommy." She looked at her and nodded her head too. I slowly reached my hand out. Right when the palm of my hand was about to hold hers, she snatched her hand back. I looked at her. Her jaw was shaking and her eyes widened, looking toward me. I then realized She was looking behind me. Fear had slithered up my spine. I slowly turned around and saw a 9-foot dark figure with red eyes that glistened. He showed teeth. He raised up his 5-inch claws and brought it down with the intent of decapitating me. I brought my head down as he lashed at me. He left a claw mark engraved on the stump. I thrusted my legs and tackled him down a hill. We both were rolling hard down the hill, hitting trees and sticks. When we hit the bottom of the slope, he got up and looked at me, snarling. I had my head down and thought, I have to. I breathed deeply, my nature pulling me into the inferno of malice, the darkness of my evil infecting my desires, my thoughts, and my will, transcending from a monster to a sadist. I looked up at him, with half of my face covered with veins that embodied death. With intentions to break his skull wide open, I tucked my chin, squared my feet, and clenched my fist. Before we did God knows what to each other, the hunting party started approaching us. The werewolf nervously hesitated to fight me. He slowly walked backwards and fled deeper into the woods. After he fled, I strained myself, deeply breathing, saying, "This isn't me. I am strong." 3 hunters came near the edge of the ravine and shined flashlights at me. They cocked their shotguns. When they understood it was me, they lowered their weapons. When I got back up there, a group of 3 asked me, "Did you see the beast?" "Yes, but it was just a black dog." Little did I know that I was creating a myth, a legend called the Black Dog, a man who could shapeshift into a man-eating monster. Even to this day, the legend is just as real as it was 120 years ago. After remembering this, I gripped the walkie and called in Alicia. "Hello," she said. "Hey, I need you to do 2 things for me." "All right, what is it?" "I need you to find the specific date of the Hellfire Massacre, and I need you to find the lunar cycle of that date." "Okay, I'll report back when I find it." "All right, thank you," I said. I leaned on the cabinet with my hands, wondering if the Black Dog had something to do with the murders at Hellfire. Suddenly, the door to the room opened. Immediately, I hid beside the cabinet. I was still positioning myself when my foot hit a blunt metal object. I blindly picked it up. It took a little bit of strength to pick this thing up. It looked like a wrench, but just more heavy-duty. Across the room, there was a metal box with a logo brand called Craftsman. As I saw that, I thought, this would be a good distraction. I threw the wrench at the metal box. Immediately, the 2 officers jumped and grabbed their guns from their holsters. While they were investigating the sound, I moved insidiously fast to the door. When I was about to exit the building, I turned the corner and ran into an officer. "Excuse me, sir." When he looked at me, I knew he didn't trust me. I could just see it in his eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. "Brandon Albin, sir." "What is yours?" "Michael Roberts." "Roberts? Any relation to Brian Roberts?" "Yes, he was my father." "Was?" "Yeah. He died. Animal attack." 1,000 pounds fell on my shoulders, and my heart was beating faster than a machine gun. I knew exactly what happened to Brian. "I'm really sorry." "Uh-huh," he said sarcastically. Michael wasn't much on trust. And can you blame him? This place is brimming with liars and manipulators. Another officer came up to Michael and said, "Detective, we have a 1062 taking place at Behemoth Drive." "Okay," Michael said, frustrated. He fervently walked by me without breaking eye contact. I then left the police department and went straight to the sanctuary. When I got to the attic, I turned on the police scanner. "Brandon," Alicia said on the walkie. "Yes, Alicia? I found the date of the killing and the lunar cycle. The massacre at Hellfire happened on January 1st, 1905. Multiple homicides, no evidence, thus no investigation." "What about the luminary?" "Oh, it was a full moon." I leaned my head on my right hand and exhaled deeply out my mouth. "Brendan, you okay?" "Alicia, have you ever heard of the Black Dog?" Yeah, who hasn't?" "Wait, you told me that in the early age of Devil's Hill that you encountered and fought a werewolf." "The legend is true. The Black Dog. A werewolf attacked a village near northeast of Witch's Forest." "Yeah. According to the file on the Black Dog, he didn't just attack a village northeast of Witch's Forest. but he also attacked up north a slaughterhouse. Elisa's heart dropped into her stomach and stuttered. Slaughterhouse? Yes. A vampire lair. He attacked a den of vampires. So when he attacked the slaughterhouse, he declared war. Your friend was killed because she was caught in the middle of a war between the vampires and the werewolves. Alicia? I heard her sniffling. Alicia. Yes, she said woefully. I'm going to find who did this. Okay. Dispatch, we have an officer down at Behemoth Drive. I repeat, Michael Roberts is down. Hearing what the police scanner said, I told Alicia, I'm going to Behemoth Drive to help Michael. All right. Briskly, I ran down the stairs and got in my car. Halfway to Behemoth Drive, Alicia informed me of Opium Night infiltrating the atmosphere around Behemoth Drive. Opium Night is a chemical signal released only by vampires. I rushed out my car and saw two officers who were immobilized on the curb. I crouched in front of one of the officers, and he lifted his finger and pointed toward a grocery store called Red Swamp. Take it easy. Don't move. Help is on the way, I told the officer. Stealthily, I walked into the store, walking down a narrow aisle. There were 3 vampires. The one in front was shoving his boot into Michael's chest and shooting spit in his face. The other 2 just stood there, nodding their heads as good soldiers. The sound of my footsteps went into their ears. They turned around and chuckled. You lost, boy? My mouth remained shut. Michael stared at me, looking confused on how I was going to take down 3 vampires. This day just gets better and better, the vampire in the front said. He started gangster walking, chest pushed out and shoulders elevated while smirking. He clenched his fist and swung at me, but I grabbed his fist and swung my wrist back, and he flew out the glass window in front of the store. The other 2 vampires' jaw was hanging down. Their eyes were sealed open. Get out, I yelled. They jumped and cowardly said, Okay, sorry. When they left, I looked toward Michael and said, Are you okay? He didn't say anything, but I knew one thing. I trusted him.